Welcome to episode 7 of the Adster Podcast. I have with me today Ketan, my co-founder again, and we are going to be talking about something really interesting, but also something that I think needs that is going to focus on dispelling a few myths in the industry as we've seen it so far, right, Ketan? So we've spoken about this, seen it often enough, but I think it's very important to address for all the publishers who are listening into this podcast and here with us today. One of the fundamental things that we have seen in a number of conversations that we have with publishers is, you're going to help me improve revenue, but, are you going to improve the demand that you're bringing in, right? Or maybe it is a function of, the actual eCPMs that I will see coming through your platform, right? Or where exactly is this improvement that you guys are talking about? And there is, while we do our best to explain it, and we've talked about this in previous podcasts as well, there is, I think, a popular misconception about, what is the true revenue formula, especially if you're dealing with ads. So maybe we should just begin there again and start by explaining, in very simple terminology, what exactly or how can publishers see an increase in revenue, and what are the parameters that go into the formula, and how do we improve those and impact those in the long term?
Right. I mean, that's a great question, Girish. And that's a question I think we have heard publishers ask multiple times in the past couple of years. You have been working with diverse publishers across the industry and different domains. So we've worked with gaming publishers, content publishers, news apps. So, I mean, the nature of user interaction on each of these apps is different. So one solution fits all obviously never works. But there is one thing which is fixed when it comes to what your revenue is, right? When it comes to ad revenue, it's a very simple formula where you say, let's say, you have X opportunities. So we are not in the business of increasing opportunities. That is a product and business decision of the publisher. They decide which slots to put in, what placements to put in.
Right.
They decide how much inventory that they need to fill across the app.
Sorry, so opportunities is basically the number of places inside the app you want to show the ads.
Right.
And that would be, like you said, slots, ad slots, or placements as, they're typically referred to.
Right.
Yeah.
And then essentially your ad revenue is a function of how much can you fill these slots. Once these slots are filled by, let's say, any of the ad partners, the mediation platforms, how much can you show them? Because, I mean, quite often than not, users bounce out of those slots, users move into different slots, users close off the app. A lot of things happen, right? Or let's say the ads get lost in translation because of slow internet, slow network. There are other latencies involved. And then finally, how much are you getting paid for the ad?
Right.
So ad revenue in simple terms is just a product of, let's say, your fill rate, your render rate, and your eCPMs. Right. And I mean, into opportunities, but then that is something that is not essentially something we decide. The product and the business team of our consumer apps decide. So yeah, that's how it is.
So intuitively, right? So like you just gave us the formula for ad revenue. Mm-hmm. So it would seem that everything else being equal, if I could just get more demand, which is what the fill rate is, right, then my revenue should go up.
Right.
And most platforms, when we talk about platforms like supply side platforms, especially that are aggregating demand and bringing it into apps, do exactly that, right? So they're bringing in more demand. So why is that alone not enough? I mean, can you shed some light on that?
So in a product A cross B cross C, you can increase A, but what if C goes down? What if essentially B is not up to the mark there? And this is what usually happens, right? When essentially let's say you have 2 or 3 mediation platforms. And by the way, most publishers usually have one primary mediation platform. It is only because of Adster and all the innovation that we have done with all the patents that we have, we are able to essentially help publishers use multiple mediation platforms at once. So let's say you have one mediation platform where you're hooking onto ads, and then let's say you add new demand partners behind those mediation platforms. That is where essentially you say you're trying to increase the fill because you're adding more demand. So the fill goes up, but what if you have inefficient auction both on the server side and the client side? What if, let's say for the given opportunity, the highest paying ad is not winning? What if you increase your fill by 20%, but your average ECPM goes down by 40%. The product goes down, right?
Yeah.
So the revenue goes down. So just ensuring that you have as many demand partners as possible for a given opportunity, and on the client side, on the server side, you're hitting 10 different demand repos for advertisements is not efficient. First of all, it is not efficient even for, let's say, in terms of the network calls that you make, the latency that you add, just because you think, okay, 10 is better than 5, let me just hit all the 10 demand partners for ads. But also, what if, let's say, you get those ads, but because of now you have to do a bigger auction on the client, on the server, you're missing out on the opportunity because these are already bounced out.
Right.
So it has to essentially, just fill is not enough. That's why it has to be like a nuanced balance between all the three metrics. And that's why I would say just optimizing on more demand partners is not enough.
So in one of the earlier episodes, we also said, and I think in one of our LinkedIn posts, we've said that more ads is not necessarily equal to more revenue. Maybe we should just touch upon that as well. Like you just mentioned it, right? So just having more demand, which means putting more oil into a broken engine, will not necessarily mean that your car is going faster.
Right.
It means that you're probably burning more fuel, but you're not actually increasing your speed. So there, in such a scenario, what are the other elements? Because we've heard this, and in some very early conversations that we've had with publishers, we've heard them say, how much can you increase my eCPM, right? Which is obviously the price that you can get for an ad, which is a function of the number of people competing for their inventory, the number of networks that are participating in the auction, and so on. And they're also cagey, right? So they want to see results fast, right. Obviously. Who doesn't? And, they want to see the CPMs grow up. Is that something that happens on day 1 or day 15 or day 30 in their journey, say with a platform like ours?
Right. So Adster in its essence is a intelligence and insights platform. We are not just additional demand partners, right?
Right.
So, and also when it comes to data and intelligence, things take time because systems need to learn both how the app looks in front of the mediation platforms, how the user is engaging on the app, what behavior patterns are they following. All of this takes time to learn and evolve. So that's why, and obviously we can understand how when publishers integrate with us, we have had this experience where publishers are like on day 1, they see a little drop in eCPM and they're like, no, we have to pull the plug on this.
Right.
But essentially what happens is, because based on our experience, we have baked in so much intelligence on the platform, which essentially understands the user from a journey perspective. How are they using the app? What are their average session times? What times of the day are they more active, more not? So we can do a lot of optimization, both client side and server side, when it comes to the entire life cycle of an ad opportunity.
Got it.
So that's why I think it is very important to be one, patient, so that our systems can kick in and understand and do the magic. And secondly, look at all the levers instead of just one. So to be very honest, I think increasing fill rates is an easy problem. The hardest problem is always how to increase eCPMs. And that's why every publisher is, how can I increase my eCPMs? Because that is the hardest problem.
Yeah.
How can you make your inventory
more valuable?
How can you act smarter in front of these mediation platforms? So these mediation platforms think, oh, this is a very smart publisher, I have to respect them more. I have to give them a higher quality ad because the user are engaging more, the CTRs are higher. How do you ensure you build an ecosystem for the publisher without them spending a lot of engineering product bandwidth, so that all of this can essentially move in tandem?
Got it. So I want to just flip the perspective a bit also. We constantly talk about the publisher perspective and what they need to be doing and how they need to be presenting themselves to the mediation platforms. Now, when a mediation platform sees a publisher's inventory and they see a whole lot of inventory, not just a publisher, right? How do they decide what to bid? Because at the end of the day, this is a tennis game that is being played between a publisher and a mediation partner. The publisher is returning serve, okay? But, what comes over the net to the publisher, again, depends on what the mediation partner has chosen to index the inventory as, right? The kind of users, the traffic, maybe maybe an element of seasonality based on the demand they have, etc. Right? So, what, if any, are the parameters that a publisher needs to care about, or maybe a platform like ours needs to care about, because we represent the publisher to the mediation partner,
Right.
in this case, where we are already deployed. So how are we making this better, and how are we making those CPMs go up?
Right. So if, let's say, I was a mediation platform and I had, let's say, 1 million apps integrated onto my stack. And obviously, since I'm, let's say, one of the leading mediation platforms, I also have a few million campaigns lined up. I have to do that matching. It's a matching problem.
Right.
Now, obviously, not all campaigns are of the same quality, paying me the same amount, let's say, per eCPM, whatever. So I have to ensure that the highest quality ads go to the most relevant users on the most relevant tabs, where the chances of clicking, the chances of conversion, etc., all are higher.
Right.
And invariably, I'll essentially use some machine learning algorithms, look at historical data for each of these apps, how are the users on these app engaging, because the same user might be a very valuable user on an app A, but not be a very valuable user on an app B, because they barely use the app B, or they use the app B in a very different manner, where even if ads are loaded, it counts as an impression on a very strong user, but there is no conversion.
Right.
So for me as a publisher, if I have to essentially stand apart from all the millions of apps that are again hooking onto the demand from the same mediation platform, I have to ensure that the life cycle of an ad is respected, the quality of metrics being tracked from the mediation platform, let's say the CTRs being tracked. I can't bombard them, for example, with a lot of requests, right? I mean, everyone in the industry now says they do some level of prefetching, caching, etc. But let's say you have 10 placements on the app. As soon as the app opens, you just call an ad for each one of them, and let's say 8 of them are not used on most sessions. Then you're just sending the mediation platform a signal that 80% of the time, whatever ad you send me, I'll not even show it to the user.
There's a lot of noise, basically.
Right. And then the mediation platform will figure out in some time. You'll clearly see that your response rates will go down, and whenever they do actually respond, their eCPMs will go down, because they think that your app is not able to respect the ad the way it deserves.
Got it.
So that's why at Adster, what we're trying to solve is, one, ensuring if there is a high value user, they are being paid for what they're worth. So when it comes to, and when we're sending signals to the mediation platform for, let's say, given opportunity, if we see that user is of a high value, we send higher flows, which we call dynamic yield optimization in our ads world. So that is very important to, let's say, boost our eCPMs. Right. And then again, by the nature of how our SDK is designed, the amount of client-side machine learning algorithms we run, we are able to predict, okay, which ad slot for this user might be called next in the same session. So we don't just, when the app starts, bombard everything, all placements to all the mediation platforms, which is again a negative signal, as I mentioned. Right. So we have to essentially understand, okay, we are wasting the least number of requests. Whatever is coming is very relevant. So essentially, by means of good bit flows, good key value pairs, just giving the mediation platforms all the armory they need to send this user a very relevant and high quality ad. Yeah. Which is again directly correlated to eCPMs.
Got it.
So that, and then fill is essentially just a function of how many demand partners you have, how many mediation platforms you can play with. And I think we have mentioned this in a previous podcast also, and where how our solution just helps you seamlessly work with multiple mediation platforms, do all the A/B testing you need. As I said, let's say app A, user A, city B, let's say mediation platform X works better, for some other user Y works better. How do you essentially, without making changes on the client side code, ensure all of this works? So all in all, it's a solution, as I said, which moves all the three metrics, obviously prioritizing for eCPMs first, because no publisher would say no to more revenue showing the same number of ads. Right? I mean, publishers could come and say, okay, I just want 4 ads per session. I don't want more than 4 ads per session per user, because it affects the churn rates, it affects the retention rates, it increases my user acquisition costs, which is also a very second or third order effect we have encountered across the journey of our publishers in the last couple of years.
In fact, I was going to come to exactly that one.
Yeah.
Because we've seen that, after publishers start to deploy us, and we've actually been able to improve the efficiency, right? So the number of impressions has gone up, but the indirect thing of increasing the impressions is obviously a user is going to see more ads on your existing placements, right? So is there a way, and I think you just mentioned it, but I wanted to emphasize that a little bit more, maybe for our publisher fraternity, is that how exactly can they control the experience better, right? When it comes to a better fill rate, which also they have to manage, because at the end of the day, it's not in their interest when they look at the entire business of their app to lose any users on account of, say, disrupting the user journey. The ads have to seem seamless, they have to be relevant as part of the app journey that the user is embarking on, right?
Right. So because of all the efficiency that we have baked in, we can almost always guarantee higher fills.
Right.
But because we know how this works, we still sometimes choose not to show an ad when, let's say, even if there was an ad waiting for us. And the reason is we look at, for example, average session times per user. And let's say, because when you integrate a solution, you might be showing 4 ads per session. But because of all the efficiency and optimization that we bring in fill and renders, let's say that goes up to 7.
Right.
But if we see, let's say, a drop in session times, what you call an effect, essentially, which whatever is affecting the user experience or user behavior on the app, we take a close look at that on a user level in real time and try to optimize the entire experience. So that's why I said our first priority is always eCPMs, which we do very well with all the dynamic yield optimization that we do on the client side and on our servers. But when it comes to fill and render, obviously more fill, more render means more revenue, but we ensure that all the second order, third order effects that we discussed about around churns, retentions, user acquisition costs going up, all of those are not affected.
Got it. Thanks for sort of demystifying that. I think that is an important aspect of this business because, at the end of the day, publishers do care about revenue, but they also care about the experience that users have on their platform. Thank you, Ketan. I think this has been a very interesting chat, and I'm sure there'll be more along these lines. To also get some perspective from the other side of the fence, when we sort of dive a little deeper into the way that, the demand side platforms work. But thank you very much for being here, and great chatting with you as always.
Yeah, it's always a pleasure being here, and I mean the way we work with a diverse set of publishers, each experience teaches us something new, and that's why whenever I come on, I share the most recent ones, the ones with a lot of context in that, and happy to share that. So yeah,
thanks.